Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for November the 19th. Today we are reading together in Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3, which has the subheadings, at least in my Bible, of trusting in the Lord, wisdom bringing happiness, and treating others fairly. These are all three very important concepts that need to be not only understood, but practiced within our lives, recognizing these things as being true and acting upon them. Here within this text, as we look at verses 1 through 12, we're going to have alternating command and result verses. So for instance, in verse number 1, and in all of the odd numbered verses, you're going to get some commands that you need to do this. And then the even numbered verses, begin verse number 2 and so on, it'll be, this is the results if you will do this particular thing. We have a poem of wisdom that's found in verses 13 through 18. And then again, in the beginning of verse 19, we just have some of the typical poetic writing style of the Proverbs. And we will think upon that as we read along today. So let me go ahead and get our text up on the screen. Proverbs chapter 3, beginning in verse number 1. My son, remember this is part of the first section in Proverbs 1 through 9, which is the fatherly advice, fatherly wisdom section. My son, don't forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commands. Here, that's the command. Here's the results. For they will bring you many lives and a full life and well-being. The command, verse 3, never let loyalty and faithfulness leave you. Tie them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. The results, then you will find favor and high regard with God and people. Here's one of the texts I mentioned yesterday that's very familiar to us. Here we find it in Proverbs 3 and verse number 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways know him, and here's the results, and he will make your paths straight. The command, don't be wise in your own eyes, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. The result, this will be healing for your body and strengthening for your bones. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your entire harvest, and the result will be that your barns will be completely filled and your vats will overflow with new wine. Do not despise, the command is, the Lord's instruction, my son, and do not loathe his discipline, for the Lord disciplines the one he loves, just as a father disciplines the son in whom he delights. So again, the back and forth here of the commands with the results. And of course, these are very general in nature. It is not absolute. It is not absolute that if you, for instance, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your entire harvest, then your barns will be completely filled and your vats will overflow with new wine. Not always the case. You might be very generous, and guess what? A random famine might kick in. But still, we're talking about these being general truths built upon principles of wisdom. That's what we're talking about here in the Proverbs. Speaking of wisdom, wisdom brings happiness as the subheading beginning of verse number 13. Happy is the man who finds wisdom and who acquires understanding, for she, remember, wisdom is personified as a woman within the book of the Proverbs. She is more profitable than silver, and her revenue is better than gold. She is more precious than jewels. Nothing you desire can equal her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left, riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant, and all her paths peaceful. She is a tree of life to those who embrace her, and those who hold on to her are happy. The Lord founded the earth by wisdom, and established the heavens by understanding. By his knowledge, the watery depths broke open, and the clouds dripped with dew. Maintain sound wisdom and discretion, my son. Don't lose sight of them. They will be life for you, an adornment for your neck. Then you will go safely on your way. Your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you will lie down, and your sleep will be pleasant. Don't fear sudden danger or the ruin of the wicked when it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from a snare. When it is in your power, don't withhold good from the one to whom it belongs. Don't say to your neighbor, go away, come back later. I'll give it tomorrow when it is there with you. Don't plan any harm against your neighbor, for he trusts you and lives near you. Don't accuse anyone without cause when he has done you no harm. Don't envy a violent man or choose any of his ways, For the devious are detestable to the Lord, but he is a friend to the upright. The Lord's curse is on the household of the wicked, but he blesses the home of the righteous. He mocks those who mock, but gives grace to the humble. And the wise will inherit honor, but he holds up fools to dishonor. And that is Proverbs chapter 3. Going back to the poem of wisdom in verses 13 through 18, it's interesting to me that the way wisdom is described here is as a tree of life to those who embrace her, and those who hold on to her are happy. Whenever we think about the tree of life, its location in the Garden of Eden, we recognize that the garden was a place of blessing, that being there in God's presence, getting to enjoy the fruit of the tree of life was a blessing from God. It was a good thing given by God. Here we see that wisdom is described as a tree of life. So the wisdom then is a good thing. It blesses those who come to have it. Blessings come from wisdom. Happiness is a result of living by wisdom. And in fact, that's what's said in verse 22. They will be an ornament they will be life for you, verse 22, and adornment for your neck. They will be life for you. What is wisdom? Wisdom is a tree of life. Here in verse 22, they will be life for you and adornment for your neck. That is wisdom and discretion specifically that are found here within this text. So I'm thinking about those who live according to wisdom, those who live according to understanding, those who live according to discretion and knowledge. The reality is life is just going to be better that way. Those who live according to these godly principles will have a better life. You got to think about those who just have a really crummy life. Everything seems to go wrong for them. They never seem to be making good decisions. Well, why? Well, it's because they're not living according to wisdom or understanding or knowledge. They're not living according to discretion. They don't make good choices. Friends, we need to make good choices. And if we have a desire to make good choices, then we need to desire to have God's wisdom and to live according to God's wisdom. We need to do what we talked about yesterday in our reading. Excuse me. And we need to think about what we talked about yesterday in our reading about having a humility before wisdom, having a desire for wisdom, and being willing to put forth the effort to pursue wisdom. If we do that, what the Proverbs says here and what Solomon says is that we will have life. We will have happiness. And that's certainly what I want. And I would assume that's what you want as well. And we need to point people toward the wisdom of Scripture. There are too many people out there right now that are living very unhappy lives. They're not happy. And they're not happy because they're trying to do exactly what the text tells us not to do. Remember, in verse number 5 of here in chapter 3 of Proverbs, it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. That's the command. That's what we need to do. Now, the prohibition, what we don't need to do is to rely on our own understanding. But that's what too many people are doing, friends. Too many people are relying upon their own understanding. They think they know it all. They think they've got it all figured out. They think they have all the answers. But continually, as we look all around us, we see people who just are not making good decisions, and they're suffering for those bad decisions. And friends, we have the better way. It's not something that we have produced, but it's something that God has blessed us with, and we need to share this with other people as best we can. We need to share these blessings with other people, point them toward wisdom, point them toward the good blessings that God has given us in wisdom. It is a tree of life to us. Again, verse 22, they will be life for you, an adornment for your neck, and you'll go safely on your way. Your foot will not stumble when you lie down. You will not be afraid. You will lie down and your sleep will be present. Don't fear sudden danger or the ruin of the wicked when it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from a snare. The thing is, whenever we live according to God's wisdom, we're not looking at it from the perspective of, look how smart I am. It's all about me. I've got it all figured out. I've got all the answers. That's not true. The wisdom is not of ourselves. I just cannot emphasize enough verse number 5 here in Proverbs chapter 3. And I know you've heard it a lot, and we're going to continue to probably reference this text a lot. We need to not trust in our own understanding. We need to not rely on our own understanding, but we need to trust in God's understanding. He has the answers. He has the wisdom. He has the understanding. He will give us proper discretion. So friends, let's do that. Let's be a people who are leaning upon the Lord and his understanding and his own wisdom. And when we do that, our paths will be made straight and we simply will be blessed. And let's share that with others. The last thing I want to leave us with, I said that I would like if you would want to participate a little more in this particular read through Proverbs, I encourage you just to pick out a particular text or a particular verse or principle from the chapters that we're going through and share that in the comment section. So one I would share in this would be verses 27-28. When it is in your power, don't withhold good from the one to whom it belongs. Don't say to your neighbor, go away, come back later, I'll give it to you tomorrow when it is there with you. That reminds me of James chapter 4, verse 17. To him who knows the good and does not do it, to him that is sin. So for us, thinking about the blessings of wisdom, whenever we see somebody who needs wisdom, we need to be willing to share that with them. Again, don't do it from an arrogant perspective. I've got all the answers. It's not our wisdom. It is the Lord's. Let's share that with them. Let's lead them to the wisdom of God so they might understand his way is the best way. And in every way in their lives, then they might seek to honor and glorify him. Friends, let us be people who are doing the right thing to those who are around us. Thank you so much for tuning into this reading on the Saturday. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. And we're looking forward, as always, to gathering tomorrow on the Lord's Day to study together and to worship together. It looks to be a great day. And I hope that you're preparing yourselves to be with us tomorrow if you are able. Have a good one, everyone. We'll be back at it again tomorrow as we'll read in the morning. I'll have the video going live at 8 a.m. of Proverbs chapter 4. Hope that you might be able to tune in then or later on in the day to read along with us here in the Proverbs. Take care and God bless.